Hey everybody, it's Men Cry in the Car podcast. I got distracted just for a second. I'm back. Episode 17. We are super duper excited. You guys, we have been doing this since May. And the men are showing up, they're healing, they're doing all the things. They want to talk about their feelings, they want to talk about what they need. And so today I'm bringing on a healing coach. Y'all already know what I do, but you need men. You need the men that look like you. You need these men that are already in the trenches, building tribe, building community. And so my special guest is the healing coach himself. So I want to bring him on so he can tell you a little bit about who he is, what he does, and all the things. So get ready. We are bringing on Mr. Palmer, the healing coach himself. Let's bring him on. Hey,
Hey, what's going on?
is what's going on? So, sir, I found you on Instagram. I'm trying to remember which platform it was. I found you on Instagram, and where I found you, you were talking to Robert, and I was just like, okay, I know Robert's story. I know what's going on with him, and you guys had this discussion. And I was just like, you know what? I have to reach out to him. So that's where I found you. I found so many great things you were doing, but I want you to tell the people like who you are and what you do and let them know that you're not like new to this, like you true to this healing space. So can you just let us know?
Absolutely. So, like you said, my name is Joevan Palmer, known as the Healing Coach on social media. I also own Sail Health, which is a mental health app that we are building right now. To help anyone who's going through a mental health crisis, anytime, anywhere, any place. I'm a sexual assault survivor, male sexual assault survivor, who have been speaking and preaching this platform for years to get more men and women to become more aware about sexual assault in the mental trauma space. So that's me, a little bit about me. I don't want to talk too much about myself, but more to share my story and to, of course, how I can help other men start their healing journey. Also, a therapist as well, so a therapist and coach. So if you're looking for mental health services in the state of Georgia on the therapy side, you can reach out to me. And of course, coaching is nationwide. You can reach out to me as well.
You are so sweet to say. I don't really want to talk about myself. You know what? A lot of times men want to hear other men speak
Oh, for
because
sure.
they don't have the voice or they feel like, let me correct myself. They feel like they don't have the voice to speak or to
Yeah.
share or like be all that because when men have come on the show, you guys are like liberating each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm finding men reach out to me like, "Oh my God, thank you for bringing him on. He was so transparent. I appreciate that." So you just feel as comfortable as you want to feel and like share all the things. But I definitely want to talk to you about um your topic, your speech. You're like your go-to. You said still healing, ing. And I gave that topic because I hear you say that a lot on your reels, your stories, all that. Where did the still healing ing come from?
Yeah, so I think what happens is there's a notion of once you go to therapy or once you get started with something that, oh, I'm healed. And I thought the same thing when I first started going to therapy when I was probably like 29 years old for the first time. And I thought, oh, I talked about it. I feel better about it. Now that I've gotten off my chest. And then as life progressed, I realized that there was still so much stuff that I needed to uncover. There's still so many things that was deep rooted inside of me. And I started, the still healing is because healing is not a one stop destination. You just don't heal and it's all of a sudden just there. Healing is a continual thing throughout life where you're discovering more about yourself. You're breaking down the barriers and the walls within yourself. And that's where it has to get down to when it comes to being vulnerable. Like vulnerability is a man's superpower. Oftentimes we as men, we look at vulnerability as a weakness because society has taught us you're a punk, you're a sissy, that's what all that just is what women do. Men, we don't share our feelings. And I wanted to change that notion within men is that we share our feelings, we get vulnerable, and it's okay to still be healing, even past, going to therapy, even past going to speaking to someone, even past getting married and dating and having children and having a family. Like you're gonna always be healing because every stage of your life, you're still discovering new parts of yourself that you've never discussed, never touched, never felt before. And I recognize even in my healing journey that I'm still on, is that I'm still uncovering so many things. And it feels so good to uncover these things. One, not alone. Two, not just in the wilderness, but two, in the trenches with other men and women who are experiencing such things. So I tell men all the time, vulnerability is the new sexy. Women will look at you in a whole totally new light, just being vulnerable, talking about where you are with your finances, where you are with your credit score, where you are in your healing journey, what happened to you as a child, what happened to you as a boy, what happened to you as a man. Talking about those things will promise you, I promise you, fellas, you will be looked at totally different because that's all women want. Now, of course, there are people out there who will use it against you, but you have to use discernment to kind of say, oh, you know what? This isn't the person that I share this with, but this is the person that makes me feel safe. They make me feel comfortable. They make me feel like, I come alive with them. They make me feel seen and heard and not downplayed or disrespected. So with vulnerability comes discernment as well.
Hmm. Okay, so a lot of things were said there. It's the superpower. It's the new sexy. Women want to hear it. You will continue to be on a healing journey because of different things you would be healed from, and so this all the aspects in life. Like, and so that's the reason why I'm glad you were able to say that as a male, because I would say that in my practice too. But I know men want to hear from other men.
Hmm.
You can get to a point where you like, oh, I've been healed ED from that thing, but there's other things that are now triggers for me, things I haven't worked on, all those things. And so when you say that, it, oh my God, I really hope men are hearing you say that, because you said you started at 29.
Yeah, the
You
first time I went to therapy, my trauma started at 12 years old. And from
put your
12
hands
to
behind
19, I never told anybody what happened to me being molested as a child. And then I told my ex girlfriend at 19, which she encouraged me to tell my parents at the age of 19. And
your
then from 19 to 29, I was still just carrying it, by myself, honestly.
hmm. Okay, I'm gonna put a pin in that and come back to that.
Mhm.
What I was saying, and I'm glad you said that. You started at 29, and what I was going to say from that is never too early. It is never too late. People think that like, oh my God, like you said, you were violated at 12. Okay, some people were violated way before then, but it's not too late. You're like, oh, it's 29, get over it. Like, you don't get over anything like that. You
No,
go through and you. Okay, I had to stop just for a second. There are so many men, and I'm a very emotional person. I don't apologize for that.
me too. I'm
I'm
with you.
single.
If you start,
There's,
I start crying.
I just keep hearing so many men come on his platform saying that they were abused. I hear so many men saying there was some type of violation. I kept it to myself. I acted out. There were behaviors and all this because I wasn't healing. And for the men to keep coming and sharing this story, being transparent, being vulnerable. Like, I applaud you today, sir. The men that came on before and those are going to come after you, because you do have to find a space where you feel safe.
For sure.
And I'm so very proud of you that you went to counseling, even at your big age of 29. Like, I don't care. Like, you went. And
For sure.
I just got so emotional hearing that. But I just want you to go back and talk about what was going on with you, okay, from 19 to 29. Like, what did that look like for you? What was happening?
So it was a journey, I would say, of me trying to discover myself because
Mhm.
one, at 18, we don't know who we are. And two, going into the age of 19 through 29, you're still trying to figure yourself out because by then you're either graduated from college or you're entering into the workforce and you're dating a lot more or you're exploring yourself a lot more. And then throughout those years, I think in the latter of those years, I started to one, try to figure out more of who I was, and two, started exploring my sexuality as well, and which led me down a really dark road where I led to depression, led to lots of anxiety, led to, sexual behavior that I got indulged in that I'm not most proud of to this day. But it just led to me exploring more of myself that I never knew existed, and also it led to me to start this healing journey and really start becoming more whole. I think oftentimes we don't look at this healing journey as I can become whole, and I never thought that. I thought I was going to live with what I would like to call a stain, for the rest of my life. And it was during my silent retreat that I was on for 10 days where I discovered that, Jovan, there's still more work to do. and you discover so much when you go on the journey and you allow yourself to go on the journey and you allow yourself to accept what happens on the journey. A lot of
Mhm.
times is we as men just can't come to grips with what's happening in our journey or on our journeys. So we
Mhm.
hold it in, and what happens is the things we hold in, they cry out in an outward expression through anger, through violence, through sex, through gambling, through so many things that we wind up indulging in, that we don't realize that it's the little boy crying out for help. It's
Yeah.
the little boy saying, "Hey, help me. Hey, show me some attention. Hey, can you please stop starving me and start healing me so I can start healing you?"
Mhm.
There's a saying that say, if you heal the boy, the man will show up. And I believe that 1,000%, that once I started healing, more of a man in me started showing up. The man in me who's become very vocal about, male sexual trauma. That's what me and Rob, all we preach about is male sexual trauma. That's why we started the Survivor Circle, where
Mhm.
we help men who've experienced the same things as we've experienced, with either, exploring your sexuality, or, being molested, or, going through the traumas, and feeling like, what, no one understands. Because for the longest time, I felt as if I was on this journey alone, that nobody understood me. That was like my first tattoo. Only God understands me. And I meant it, because at the time, when I got that tattoo at 18 years old, I felt as if nobody understood what I was going through, because the one, it was not talked about back in
Mhm.
the 90s
Mhm.
and 2000s. Um, I've never heard a man talk about him being, abused at such a young age, or in general, honestly.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I started getting older, and it's just, how, God works and the world works, and how you start talking about one thing, and what happens is, you kind of like, how you start seeing a car, and all of a sudden you start talking about a car, and then all of a sudden you start seeing
Oh.
a
Mhm.
same car,
Mhm.
that effect
Mhm.
is called. But it's kind of the same thing. Once you open your mouth and talk about it, God will send you your community that you need to help you through on that journey to your wholeness. And that's what happened with me, is once I started opening my mouth about what I've experienced, one, in therapy, two, the challenge from my therapist to start being vocal about what I've experienced, and then three, getting involved in community, is what really helped me the most. Is I feel like community, vocalness, and therapy are like my three go-tos, honestly. That's really helped me become more of a man, to help me see more of myself, to, like, stop living in comparison of other people. It also helped me to really just feel like, you know what, Jovan, you're not alone in this journey.
Yeah. And so a lot of men say that all the time. You know, who can I talk to? I don't feel safe here.
Mhm.
Even going back to what you were saying before, to show emotion is to show weakness. If I say anything outside of me being strong, provider, all those things, then I'm being, like you said, I'm being a sissy, I'm being a punk, or you acting like a female, you act like this. And that's the part I feel like really needs to disappear,
Absolutely.
because we all have emotions. It's just not a female thing. It's just not a girl thing. It's not that. To say to a young boy, because I hear you saying this, and I heard a lot of men that came on before to say when they grew up, they were told not to cry, not to this, not to that. And then you have this same little boy that was not allowed to show emotion. Now you expect him to go into the world and just to adapt, perform, fit in. Like what is he supposed to do with that? And then on top of violation, trauma, sexual abuse, physical abuse, and then I'm taught to keep it to myself. To me, that's a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely. And I believe it's a recipe for disaster, because one, it doesn't allow the man to really explore all of who God created him to be.
Exactly.
Men don't realize that you operate both in the masculine and feminine. You don't just
Correct.
operate just in the masculine only. Our DNA is made up of, one, our mother's DNA, the feminine, our father's DNA, the masculine. So when those two came together, they created one, of course, us, and then two, our DNA from our mother and father both live and is embedded inside of us. So we have to
Correct.
realize that the emotional side of us that exists, it's embedded in us, and it's okay to express it through tears. My family knows, like, I'm gonna cry. They know that I'm going to feel the emotions of somebody else. They know that. And then
Yep.
there was a time where I had maxed that because of being talked about, because of being that person. And had somebody had told me that, Jovan, that's completely healthy, that's completely normal,
Mm.
I would have been that same person throughout my life, feeling more free, instead of having to feel like I gotta mask my emotions, or I can't cry in public, or I can't feel the emotion of somebody else because one, I'm just someone who just feels people emotion. Like when you started crying, I just felt all the emotions in my body just starting to, start
Yeah,
feeling themselves, whatever you call it. I mean, if you call it that. And it's okay to feel that.
it
My
is.
grandfather was a great expression of a man who showed his emotions. When his grandkids hurt, his wife hurt, his children hurt, when he's at church, preaching and teaching Sunday school, and he cries, he cries unapologetically.
Right.
And it's just there's nothing wrong with men crying. And I love your title, Men Cry in the Car, because that's the thing that we do. We cry in the car where we have our most isolated times, when we're either going to work, we're coming from work, we're going to the gym, we're leaving the gym, we're leaving, whatever space, the sports bar or whatever it may be, and whatever emotions we're feeling. We utilize that time to allow express our emotions, but not realizing that our emotions, the one, if the windows are up, they're all kept inside still. You know,
Correct.
and if they're down, they're just going out into the universe, and that's it. And they're being, maybe they're being heard, but it's just
Hmm.
mentally, emotionally, physically, and on an intellectual level, they're not being heard, and they're still being bounced right back to us, because it's like, one, I felt like I feel good because I got it off me,
Hmm.
but still it hasn't landed on a place to give me the directives, the coping mechanism, the skills to kind of like, how do I deal with this when I feel this again? How do I, when I feel this way, what do I do? When I hear this, what do I do? When I
Right.
see this, what is it that I do? And I think that's the part when we men, one, I'm not saying to stop crying in the car, because to keep crying, if you're crying, keep crying, for one. But two, it's just, men, brothers, we have to get in community and start talking about the things that we're crying about, and ask, so the brothers can ask, okay, well, why are we crying about this? What are we feeling when we cry about this? Where did this emotion or expression come from? So let's start deep, diving a little bit deeper into the emotion, to one, so men can understand, one, it's okay to have emotions, and two, that I understand where these emotions are coming from.
Yeah. So this is like sort of like what Tim was saying last week too, because he says you can cry. Yes, we want you to cry, but you still bottle it up because
Mm-hmm.
wait, all you did was just like let off like that part, but still, like, what's the root of it?
For
What's
sure.
going on? Where's the space of it? And
Yeah.
that's what I say on the platform sometimes as well too. I say, yeah, it's titled Men Cry in the Car because I know men cry wherever they find solitude.
Mm-hmm.
However, I want you to get out of the car. I want you to find that safe space. I want you to start working on that because I don't want you to stay contained in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why you guys come and you become a resource. Like to build a community because men know, like you said, they know to do that. I'm going to cry away from my wife. I'm going to cry away from my mom and my sisters or whatever on the way to the gym or from the gym. But when I get home, here I go again. I got to be the man. I got to be the protector. I got to be all that. Well, no, you're not really not dealing with the situation. And so when I hear you say your grandfather was pretty much like the person that showed you emotions and you felt safe there, it makes me think and wonder who were the people or who was that person that said don't do that, like who, I'll say, who shut you down for you to stop showing emotions where you knew like it was okay to do that.
Society. You got society, you got your friends, or people I would say, not I'm calling them your friends, people you think are your friends, for one.
Yeah.
That you are to confide in, you start crying and they start picking on you because, one, you're crying because of whatever situation may happen, or you're maybe expressing a vulnerability and they're picking at it, one, because they don't know what to do with it, and two, most men deflect in a joking manner because the things that they hear other men who are vulnerable about are the things that they're experiencing, but they don't
Mm-hmm.
know how to vocalize what they're going through, so they deflect in a way that we use it as a joke, but in all seriousness, it is really a serious thing that we're going through. And I think as men, we have to stop deflecting. Two, we got to stop saying that I don't need therapy, which is a very toxic thing for men to say. And three, we need to, one, like I said, get in community. It's very important and imperative that we get in community to, one, talk amongst one another. Three, two, to really just start feeling and being and living in our emotions.
I totally agree because the emotion that comes up for a lot of men or and society that we feel comfortable with
Mhm.
men sharing is anger.
For sure.
We're okay with that. We're like, okay, he's angry, it's fine. Oh, you're showing anger. Oh, okay. And to me, that is like so. I don't like the word toxic, but I'll use it. That's so toxic for a man because if that's all you expect him to show, or that's all you are accepting of him to show, what happens when he wants to show joy and happiness and um, I guess like being excited and all those things instead of anger and sad and happy? Like there are more emotions than that.
For
And
sure.
so if you show up with anger all the time, it's just like if you expect, okay, let me say this. This is what I mean by this. You know, like when they say the strong black woman,
Yeah,
if I never ever hear that ever in my life, I would be okay
me too.
because that's ridiculous.
Hmm.
There is not ever a time I'm always going to be strong. I'm strong in some situations, and I have been strong before, but just to title me strong, and it goes back to like the angry black man, like that right there, because again, we're so accepting of what is seen as negative or toxic or one of those things versus, oh, he can be soft.
Right.
He does have a heart. He does have feelings.
Hmm. And I'm glad
Yeah.
you mentioned that because you mentioned earlier that we notice that anger shows up, and that anger is an emotion. So if anger is
Mhm.
allowed to show up, that means happiness is allowed to show up, joy is allowed to show up, peace is allowed to show up. All of these other emotions that are allowed to show up, but we pretty much tend to tame them or hide them because we feel as if anger is all I know. But what if we just said, you know what, I'm going to give happiness a try today? And I'm going to research, okay, what does happiness look like in a black man, or what does happiness look like in a man in general? And I'm going
Mhm.
to learn to start exhibiting this today. I'm going to walk around today and just smile.
Yep.
As a black man walking in this world, when we don't smile enough, or we don't smile at each other enough, we may dap each other up, or we may give each other the universal head nod
Mhm.
and keep it pushing. But it's just, what if I exhibit and exuded happiness today? What if I exuded joy today and peace? And instead of going home angry, or instead of going home to my wife and my kids, and I say, I got to show up as dad, I got to show up as provider, I got to show up as husband. What if you say, today I'm going to go home and show up as vulnerability?
Yeah.
And you cry, instead of crying in the car, you cry in your wife's lap,
Mm.
and you let her stroke your head and
Mm.
rub your back, and as you're expressing, the hard day you had at work today, two, the trials and tribulations you had to face in the world and society today,
Yeah.
three, maybe a news article that you may have seen on social media that I just seen right before we just got on, that really just made me upset, was that a black man was out in his front yard just trimming his trees with his, and then got shot in the neck. And that right there is something that hurts me. And I may want to come home, instead of coming home to be a provider this day, or come home to be a protector this day. I need to come home and be vulnerable because that could have been me, you know.
Mhm.
And
That's right.
because we see so much of black men being gunned down in America by cops, by our own people, by
Mhm.
if we want to take away the word gunned down, and just being beat down by other people in society, by our women, by ourselves, by other men. There's a space that we need to come and learn to be vulnerable, and home should be it. Our community should be it. The African proverb says it takes a village to raise a child. I also believe that it takes a village to, one, help raise a man, two, to help cultivate a man, and three, to help that man learn to live in a vulnerable state of mind. And it's possible. It's very possible. It's just that we just choose not to. And I tell people all the time, life is about choices, and we all get to make them every day. When we wake up, we have the same 24 hours. I don't want to say we have the same, because I don't like using that. We all have 24 hours to
I'll
choose
have. Mhm.
what we can pick from there, because everyone's 24 hours is not the same. Because
Correct.
if my 24 and a single mom 24 is not the same at all. So, one, we got to stop living in stigmas.
Yeah.
And we have 24 hours to say, you know what, at least 1 hour out of this day, I'm going to live in vulnerability. I'm going to
Yes.
live in happiness. I'm going to live in peace. I'm going to live into a meditative state. There's
Mhm.
so many things that we can choose to do, but we're choosing not to, because, one, all we know is anger. All we know is hostility. All we know is the darker side of life. And we are choosing not to, learn about the joyous side of life.
Mhm.
The thing is, there's resources out there. They're unknown, but there's resources out there on how to become a happy man, how to become a joyous man, how to become a peaceful man. We do so if we take the same energy that we do to go out there and to go make money,
Mhm.
and put that same effort into our mental health and our mental well-being.
Mhm.
About it, black men
Mhm.
would be a force to be reckoned with. You know,
Because you already are anyway.
come on now.
You are because you already are anyway. Then one thing I love outside of myself, because I love myself the most. Well, outside of Jesus, and I love myself the most. Like I
Mm.
love a black man.
Yes.
I love black men. My father was one. My brothers, my husband. Like I love black men because again, like I see like black men are so. You know, like when you eat a good piece of food, you like. That's how black men are to me. Like I'm just like, I love a black man. Like I really do.
Feel
And so,
about black women. I'm just saying, when you feel about black men is how I feel about black women, and that's how we should feel about each other,
uh-huh. Yeah.
regardless if it's platonic or not, or if it's in a relationship aspect, anything. That's how we should feel about each other. Is when I see you, there's this about you because I see
Mm-mm.
more than just your skin. I see just more than what you show up as, but I see you.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
see the hurt. I see the tears that that goes
All of it.
unnoticed. I see, the financial struggles that you're going through. I see, and that's all that we need to be. That's all we want is to be
Yeah.
seen and to be heard. And
Yeah.
if we see each other, we hear each other. Listen, I can go on and on about this. If we just see each other and hear,
Oh,
we could just be so far off, but we're too busy beating each other down, not talking about the positive side of life, sharing
mhm,
negativity. Like I
mhm.
said, the more you feed negativity, the bigger it grows. It's like a cancer. The more
Anything
you,
else? Yeah.
guess what? It has to go away.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
it's
just,
so
yeah.
okay, because yeah, we're doing it. So this is the thing. This is what I think about conditioning.
Hmm.
We both talked about society. Like when I talk to my clients, when I talk to my family and myself, I was like, unlearn it, and we were conditioned. So the conditioning, that's the part we need to get away from.
Hmm.
Because again, like you said, we're beaten down by society, our wives are this and this and that. And I'm just like, oh my God, if because first of all, my husband does feel safe for me.
I love it.
A lot. I do too.
Can I stop you for a second and just say thank you?
Yes, yes,
I
you
just want to say
can.
thank you for letting your husband feel safe with you. He needs that space more than you ever probably would ever know it. I know you know it, but more than you would know it, he needs that
Yeah.
space. Keep creating that space for him because what's going to happen is you say, yeah, you have sons, right?
Hmm.
Your sons will see that, and that's what they're going to look for in their future wives.
And they do. They do. Like we have a 21-year-old and then we have a 6-year-old. Both of them are so vulnerable with me.
Good.
So vulnerable. Like our 21-year-old, he shares more with me than he does dad because we created that space. Now he does. He talks to dad, but he comes to me and he'll say, you're my person. I was like, I know. He was like, so I gotta tell you what's going on. I'm like, all right, tell me. And my 6-year-old, like, he'll do the same thing too. He'll say, Mommy, so let me tell you what happened today. I'm like, tell me what happened. But still, that's the part we need to stop. Like, because the conditioning when you were raised, I was raised, our parents, grandparents, all that, we were just told to like be all the things that we said before.
Hmm.
But to allow a man to feel safe in his home, in his environment, within
Yes.
his marriage, his relationship, like you said, because the world out there is already beating him up. The world hates a black man. And
Mm.
that, yes, hate is strong, but the world hates a black man because the world sees how powerful black men really are, you know. And I see that too. So that's why I say you guys are so yummy to me. But when you create that safe space for him, he can come home and he can cry. Like you said, my husband needs that more than I know. I can only imagine
Hmm.
because I can see him come through the door and I can see he's been like covering up all day. And then he comes to the door and he can look at me and I say, what happened? What's going on? And I feel like if every man could feel that way, then he wouldn't like judge himself. He wouldn't feel insecure. Like he would know, hey, it's okay to do therapy. Hey, it's okay to say I don't have it all together. It's
Yeah.
okay to cry. It's all those things. But because now I'm going to just talk for me and other black women, because we haven't made our men feel safe. That's another part of the reason why men don't show up. Like
Yeah.
we have to start that. Like we create that within our relationships. And I
Hmm.
definitely wanted that for my husband because I saw my mom and my dad, they didn't have that. But I knew when I got married, I was just like, you know what? I want this to be my best friend. And I want him to come home and say whatever. I want him to just cry or whatever. The very first time I saw my husband cry, I was tore up, not because he was crying. I felt really great and I felt good that he was sharing that side,
Mm.
but I was tore because I was like, This is probably the first time he cried in front of anybody.
Yeah.
Because it was one of those, that those tear jerker cries. And I just let him cry. And I looked at him. I said, "You want to leave?" Because we were in a public place. I said, "You want to leave?" He said, "Yeah, let's go." And when we got in the car, I just held him. I was just like, because I knew he felt safe with me.
Mm.
And so I don't even know why I shared that. I think I just shared that because I just feel like it's so important.
Yeah, it's
It's
very
just so
important.
important for us as spouses, girlfriends, sisters, moms to just create that space for our men.
And it's an honor, if I were you, take that as a badge of honor that your husband felt safe enough to have what we like to call that ugly cry in front of you. And the
Right.
fact that he felt safe lets him know that he can do it again and he can do it
And
another.
he has.
Yeah, and
And
he
he,
has, and I've been there before with my current girlfriend right now where, just talking about my life and the journey that I've been on. And I cried in her lap one day when we were in Hilton Head. And I think that was when the vulnerability opened up in our relationship because though I'm still on this healing journey,
yeah,
there's still a part of me that doesn't feel 1,000% safe with people until I vet you out.
I got it.
And then it's okay to vet women out before you give that to them. And I had to make sure that I felt safe enough to vet her out and to say, what, can I feel safe with her? And I did. She didn't judge me for the things we talked about. She let me be. She held me. She cried with me. She gave me space when I said, I just need 5 minutes of some fresh air. She came out and made sure I was okay. And fellas, listen, if a woman is willing to do that, that's the one you need to be with. Not the one that say, what, you gotta have 6 figures in your pocket, you gotta be 6 foot with abs and all that types of stuff. All that stuff is cool, and that stuff can come and go. We've seen the dad bod, we've seen men make 6 and 7 figures and lose it all. My thing is you want somebody who's gonna be there for you all the time through thick and thin. That's what vows really mean. It's not I get tired of people getting married and saying, oh, this is a business and we got to have a prenup and all types of stuff. That's not what God intended marriage to be. God intended marriage for us to be there for one another through thick sickness and health, through death, all that types of stuff. And we're looking at marriage and relationships all the way wrong. And that's why we don't feel safe because we're entering into relationships with the wrong headspace and the wrong mindset and the wrong, everything because we feel as if I gotta have it all the way together. Then you have the notion that people are pushing that, oh, if you ain't got your life all the way together, you don't need to be dating. What people
Yeah.
fail to realize is that women are typically men's motivation. And if I'm with you now, if I wasn't motivated before, I'm now motivated. And women, I don't want you to take this the wrong way and say, well, I have to get with a broken man. No, because we're all broken individuals. Because my thing is, when you come together, you're broken still. When he comes with you, you're broken. My thing is this: why not go on this journey to wholeness together? Why not find somebody that I can do this journey and do this thing called life with, and find your
Right.
person? And
Right.
there's this I think it's Japanese or Korean statement called kenjutsu, where they
Mm-hmm.
they break, like, when a bowl like this is broken,
Mm-hmm.
it's shattered, and what they do is they take and put gold pieces in the bowl to mold it back together. And guess what? It's become more valuable than it once was before. So if
Right.
this bowl was only $5 when I bought it, guess what? It's now $10 because now it has the gold inside of it because the value has now increased. When you
Right.
start healing, your value increases. You become the prize. And a lot of times men feel as if, you're not the prize. And it's like, you both are the prize. When you guys come together, lay down your burdens and say, you know what? All of what social media has taught me about relationships, all of what my mom and dad may have taught me, what I've seen in life, I'm going to lay all that down. I'm going to start a whole new foundation with you. We're going to try this thing. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, you know what? I'm thankful that we did it. I'm thankful that we were together. Maybe we may not be each other's person, but along that
Mm.
journey, we were meant to be each other's destination for that time being.
Yeah. That's so good. That's so good. I was just like looking down. I saw a comment, and someone says, "I don't know if it's hate. I think it's more of intimidation. I think that's when I mentioned society hates a black man. I think that's where the reference came from."
Well,
Um,
sometimes intimidation can fuel hate
mhm.
because if you're intimidated by something or somebody, you'll find a reason not to dislike them, which then fuels the hate. You think about it to say today's society, and people are fueled by hate. It makes them feel better. It affirms them. The reason I felt a way about a black man, the reason why I, as a white man, white woman, Indian man, whatever it may be, I feel this way
Mhm.
toward a race or a person and somebody, emboldens them to feel the way that they do, then guess what? It fuels it. It fuels the hate that's because we all have something that we hate inside of us. I
Mhm.
hate when it does X, Y, and Z. We all have something. Now should we be striving to, push away that hate and get out of our system? Absolutely. But as human beings in the humanistic side of us, we're gonna have these things that exist in us and that coexist in us that we have to learn to say, okay, cool. These are things that I can take with me on this journey. These are the
Mhm.
things on this journey that I need to leave behind. Hate is one of them. But
Mhm.
if we keep it at 100, hate
Yeah,
exists.
it does.
Hate, that's why there's a thing called hate crimes.
Mhm.
And
Correct.
within hate crimes, it means that if I'm a black male and I dislike white people, or I'm a white male and I dislike black people, or whatever
Mhm.
maybe and vice versa, and I say I killed you or I shot you because I didn't like the way your skin looked, that's a hate crime.
That's a
I
hate
didn't like
crime.
the way you showed up today because you're gay. I didn't like the way you showed up today because you know what? You're 6'5" and I'm 5'1".
Yeah.
So that those things are fueled by hate. And
Yeah.
those are things that live in us that we have to ask ourselves, why do I hate? Where is this coming from? Where does this stem from? Why was I taught this? We don't never ask ourselves, well, was I taught hate? Because
Mhm.
those are things that are learned. Those are learned behaviors. Hate
Mhm.
is learned behavior. I learned this way to hate because well, my friends hate you because I want to hate you. Well, let's do
Correct.
we so, but why do I hate this person? Or do we even ask our friends, well, why do you hate them? Oh,
Yeah.
because they this and the third. Have you thought about forgiveness? And as
I love
men,
that.
we gotta learn forgiveness. One,
Mhm.
forgive yourself. Two, forgive the person who hurt you. And I know oftentimes we say, "Oh, I gotta keep a grudge." I got to. You gotta realize your body is keeping score of all the things that you do in life, all the things
Whew.
to you, all the things that you're producing out of your help, your hate, and the lack of getting help and the lack of speaking about things. Your body is holding on to these things, and it's like what. Our bodies are like sponges soaked in the ocean that's absorbing everything that comes its way. It's absorbing
Mhm.
germs, it's absorbing the water, the salt, the minerals. It's absorbing everything around. And if you think about you put that into a human aspect, we're absorbing, learned behaviors. We're
Yeah.
absorbing hate. We're absorbing, the lack of self love. We're absorbing so many things that we say, okay, when am I going to take all of this of who I am, wring it out, so that I,
Mhm.
what, start fresh. Now
Yeah.
that this is all ringed out and I'm dry, I'm gonna start fresh from this day on Monday, October 28th at 3:37 p.m. is my turning of a new leaf.
Yeah.
Doesn't The thing is we think that we have to wait until tomorrow or we wait until we get into therapy. You can start today by just getting your journal. Me and my cousin are going through this journal right here. It's called the Mental Health Mixtape for Black Men, and he and
Ooh.
I, we get on the phone every week and we just talk. Okay, we journal through it. We go through it. Okay, cuz, how you feeling about this? How you feeling about that? And it's just that's a small step. If you say, okay, I'm not ready for therapy, find you an accountability partner where you can kick it and collaborate with on your mental health journey that you trust.
Yep.
You can get this mental health next tape. You can get a regular old journal. You can just talk if you want to. But men, stop holding in your vulnerabilities because you got to realize that vulnerability is a superpower. It is not something that's going to detriment your life.
So to get men out the car, I usually ask that question. You already started talking on it. Journaling is one of those things that people feel like, oh, it's a woo woo thing. Like it doesn't do anything to journal. It does, because I always say it gets it out of here.
Absolutely.
It sounds really jumbled, and sometimes it sounds crazy. It sounds all that, but when you get it out and put it on paper, it's like, whew, that's
Yeah,
out of my head. Like I don't
absolutely.
even have to think about that. But then you start looking at it, you're like, oh, because sometimes when I journal, it's like, oh, that didn't sound so crazy. Now that it's out of here, it's on paper.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, this really makes sense.
right.
So to hear a man say, oh yeah, we journal and we actually journal and we talk about it every week. That right there, again, I hope this is really opening up for people, because even the women that are watching, share it with your husbands or loved ones, all the men in your family, because they need to see this. Even though you say, and I know that you're a coach and I know that you're a therapist, even though you come on presenting as a black man as you are, I'm a coach, I'm a therapist, still there are gonna be men that say, oh, I'm not gonna do that.
Of course.
Oh
Um,
yeah, we're not gonna do that. Simply because what you was talking about too, we need to unlearn that. All that stuff we have absorbed hate, anger. keeping our feelings to ourselves, like all that, as our parents would say, birds of a feather flock together. If you start like you were a very emotional person and you showed it and you were very comfortable with it until society starts saying, why are you doing that? So now it's like, well, if y'all tell me not to do that, then I'm going to act like you. I'm going to suck up everything. I'm going to keep it all together. We're going to get angry. We're going to fight people. We're going to do all those things versus like, but this is where I felt the most healthy
Hmm.
when I was able to express myself.
Yeah.
So I'm just so glad you're still just like keeping it in there because I'm telling you, it's so hard. I'm gonna start sending them in to you. It's so hard
Spend them all.
to hear we need a space. I see you keep working with women. I see you working with men too, but we need a space. And I just need you to continue to say that. Like there's resources out there. I want you to put the book up again so they can get it. There's resources out there. You are there. There's therapy. Like there's nothing wrong. Okay, say this. Please tell the men the benefits they can get from therapy. Because
Absolutely.
they need to hear it from you, not
Yeah.
me.
Well, for sure. The benefits of therapy are one, it helps eliminate, because a lot of men, we do things that are therapeutic and we think that is therapy. For one, going to the gym, you say, oh, I'm going to my therapy session at the gym. That's not therapy. I'm going to be honest and keep it 100 with you fellas, because I know that's how we take things. Doing things that's therapeutic versus going to therapy are two different things. And going to the benefits of therapy is one, you get to get seen and you also get to be heard. You also get a space where you can lay down all of your burdens. You get a space and you get a, imagine having somebody tailored specifically to your problems, and that's their only job. At in life we wear multiple hats, but you get to come to somebody that their job is specifically dedicated to you for an hour a week, maybe twice a week, however many hour sessions you choose. But for an hour a week, you have somebody who's dedicated and committed to you. And that's what therapy is. And that's what it's been to me, that I know that every week, whatever time I choose with my therapist, I go there for that hour and it's all about me. And there's no place that you can go in life and society where it's all about you. And that's the beautiful thing about therapy. It allows you to unlock that under the inner child who's still hurting, who's starving, who's been crying out for help. It allows you to unpack all of what you've seen in life, the things that's embedded in your mind, the things that's embedded in your body, the things that's embedded in your spirit. You get to unpack all of those things in a safe space where nobody's listening, because therapists, we have to abide by HIPAA and privacy laws. Because my thing is, if you hear something that you talked about in your session and you find out it gets out, we lose our license. So we have to abide by HIPAA and all those compliances. So it's a safe space where privacy matters. There's this thing called patient client confidentiality, where whatever you talk about in that session, as long as you're not talking about killing somebody or harming yourself, it goes nowhere. And that's the thing, is like, men, we got to realize that it's okay to talk to somebody. And I know there's not many black male therapists out there, but trust me, there's more showing up.
Mm-hmm.
But my thing is, you all have to first show up so we can show up for you. That's the first step to therapy, is one, just showing up, going to somebody's website or their Instagram DMs and saying, hey, I need help.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually pivoting more to the black male space and creating more black spaces for black men, because I know we need it. Because if I'm being honest, all of my therapists have been women. It started with a black woman who was my first therapist. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm thankful to her, because had it not been for her, I would not be in this space where I am now, or probably I might be even more further delayed than I am now.
Yeah.
But I know for men, it just makes you feel more safe to talk to somebody who looks like you, who experiences what you experience. And that's what we're here for, brothers. And I'm here
Mm-hmm.
to help. Every man that's probably been on this podcast is there to help. And I know you need a space, and the spaces are being created, and the spaces are already there for you. You just got to take
Mm-hmm.
the first step.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I know they appreciate that too. While you're on the topic of like spaces where men can get help or whatever, now tell us about your app. I
Yes.
saw you talk about it, so let us know about that.
Yeah, so speaking of spaces, I'm developing a mental health app where individuals, it's a community-based app, because I've realized community is the best space for healing to happen. And throughout the company, it's called Sailor Health, and Sailor is a Japanese unicorn animal. So it's like, Everyone's mental health challenges are unique. And I create this app where we are focusing on one, you get a platform for AI therapists. So if you're this person that says, you know what, I don't think I'm ready for therapy just yet, but you want to get a feel for therapy, you can talk to a AI therapist where they're talking back and forth with you about the things that you are experiencing. We have rooms where you can go into a powwow room and talk to other men, and actually have a room led by a male therapist where you just want to say, you know what, it's a room specifically just for men only. There's no women in there. It's only men. And we talk about men things and things that we're experiencing. There's a resource tab where you can get resources about different, anxieties, depressions, the different types of, PTSD that you may be experiencing. What else is going on? You can connect with licensed therapists. You can, do meditations in there. There's so many things that we're preparing to do in this app, and I want it to be a space where people feel they can come alive and they can have access to it 24/7, 365.
And so you're launching it, or
We're in the launch
it's
phase right
already
now.
okay.
We're pretty much gathering data right now and interviewing people, and of course looking for investors to get it built so I can, hire engineers and do all the back end stuff that of course we don't see when apps are being built. But
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
like I said, I do have a wait list at you can just join that www.sayolahealth.com/waitlist. Join the wait list. You get updates, you get insights, you can become a beta tester when we do launch. And I believe it's gonna be a great space. I've been talking to different therapists about it, and they love the concept so far,
Hmm.
ready for it to get out there. So, like I said, we can create spaces on there, and men can have a space to themselves where they can come. They can't go to talk to somebody in person, or maybe they haven't been able to find a therapist just yet. They can at
Yeah,
least have a space where they at least got the conversation started, and
for
maybe
sure.
along that road and that journey, they can find a therapist during those times.
For sure. And so I know you're still getting everything together. Do you like have a time frame where we're looking at like
My hope is
quarter
that
two, like
quarter
quarter? Which
mid
one?
quarter one,
Okay.
early quarter two is my hopes to have up
Okay.
and yeah. So right now, the rest quarter four is finding funding and then locating the right engineer to actually build the app out for me, and then mid quarter one, early quarter two is like actual launch.
Hmm. It's needed, and I'm so glad you decided to do that. I don't know if that was one of your ideas or if God gave you that idea. I don't know where it came from, but I'm so
Yeah,
thankful that you are doing that because,
yeah,
like
yeah.
you said, we they just need all the different avenues and platforms of like just receiving help because it doesn't have to be traditional, like you said, seeing a therapist. It could be a support group, it could be an app, it could be a coach. Like we just want men to get help.
Yeah, just
So
get
for
help from
sure.
something or somebody. That's it. My thing is, once you start, you're never gonna want to finish.
Mm,
That's what I feel about healing, is that I never want to finish healing, because when I feel like I finished healing is that I must be at my deathbed.
yeah.
That's where God said, you know what, it's your time to come home, son.
Mhm.
But as
Mhm.
long as I'm on earth, I'm gonna, because you're gonna face so many things. Like I said earlier, you're gonna face so many trials and tribulations throughout life.
Mm. You really are.
Have every day is gonna wake up with its own problem. And the Bible tells us, don't worry about tomorrow, for it has its own problems. So my
Mhm.
job is to say, you know what, I'm gonna just focus on what I can do today to prepare for a better tomorrow.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
that's what
For
we
sure.
as men gotta do. Just focus on today, fellas. Just focus
Yeah.
on today. Tomorrow got its own problem. Yesterday had its problem. But let's just focus on today and get through today.
Mhm. Yeah. And just knowing still that ing is life. That's like we're going to continue healing because there's so much that we need to learn and so much we need to unlearn.
Hmm.
Before you go though, sometimes I ask it this way, but it's coming up today like this. There's somebody that's watching you. There's somebody that's going to see this live. There's someone that is going to receive it through a share or whatever. I don't know if it's a young man. I don't know if it's an older man. I don't know, but somebody is watching you. What do you want to say to him right now?
I want to say what I typically end everything with is life is far from over. Whatever you do, don't give up, don't give in, just stay on the journey. Oftentimes society tells us that we got to be something that we don't want to be. And like I told you before, life is all about choices. You don't have to choose what mommy and daddy said you have to be. You don't have to choose what the society says you have to be. You don't have to choose what your wife, kids, or your friends say you have to be. You get to choose who God says you get to be. And that's anything in the world. You can wake up today and say, you know what? I want to be an engineer. And you can do that. That's the perks of living in this world. And with those choices, you also get to choose to heal and start your healing journey. And so I want you fellas to know, and ladies, if you're listening, remind your men, and fellas, remind yourself that I get to choose to start healing. I get to choose to heal. I get to choose to be vocal. I get to choose to be vulnerable. I get to choose to try this thing one more time. And like I said, life is far from over. You still have time to get started today. So keep running, keep walking, and keep healing.
Awesome. Now, before you leave, tell us one more time where we can find you on like across all the platforms.
Yeah, so you can find me across every platform: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube is Joevan J. Palmer. I've had my podcast a pause for a moment, but I'm going to get started back. That's Vulnerable Moments with Joevan J. Palmer. And then, of course, you can find my app and get the latest updates at www.saolahealth.com. That's SAOLA health.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Please don't leave. I want to take you down. I just want to end the live, but I want to talk to you. But I really thank you so much for being here.
For having
Thank you
me.
for everything that you do because you are truly impacting lives. Not only are you working on yourself, healing yourself, but you healing other Black men, and we definitely need you. We need you. So thank you. Don't ever give up. I know it gets hard sometimes, but you are definitely purposeful. Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. Everyone, it has been another episode of Men Cry in the Car podcast, episode 17. I know that was powerful. I know you need to share it out. But like I said before, if you have not subscribed, please do that. Like and share. Like this needs to be out. The men need to see it. We are building community here. They're finding their tribe, they're finding their people. And as I always say, y'all already know, I see you, I hear you, and I support you. Until next time.